Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the REDX Podcast. My name is Haley Johnson. I will be the host today. Today, we bring on Timothy Dominick from Maryland. He is an avid prospector. He prospects expireds for rent by owners and pre-foreclosure leads. And he gets into a little bit of his story of how he started prospecting and how he's successful with it. But he gives us his in-depth scripts for each of these lead types. So if you prospect expireds, firm by owners, pre-foreclosures, and you're looking to elevate your script or looking for different ways to be successful on the phone, or if you're interested in prospecting these lead types, he goes into how he prospects them and how he's successful and the best conversation and what scripts make the best conversations for those different lead types. So be sure to listen to his scripts and see what value they can bring into your own business. And of course, if you are interested in more scripts for your prospecting, REDX also has our ultimate script e-guide that you can get all of our scripts for all of the different lead types to help you be successful while prospecting. And you can get those at redx.bz/scripts. We'll also have that linked below so that you can easily access that. But yeah, so this is an episode all about scripts and how to be more confident on the phone. If you know what to say, then you will be more confident and that will translate on your phone calls. So that is it for today. Excited for our conversation with Tim, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome back, everybody, to the REDX Podcast. We have Timothy Dominick with us. Welcome, Timothy. We're excited to have you.
Hey, Haley, thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, of course. We found each other because you are in our Facebook group, REDX Elite or REDX Prospecting Community. If anybody wants to join that, we can put the link in the comments for anybody. But I'm excited to get into our conversation today, learn a little bit more about you, Tim. But just to get started, could you give us like a little brief introduction, how you got into real estate, a little bit of your story in the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into like the real estate space when I was pretty young. A good buddy of mine who already owned quite a bit of rental properties kind of took me under his wing and showed me I was running around the streets a little bit. So he was kind of like, hey, I'm gonna show you how to do real estate. So we worked together to do that. He's been like an older brother to me. And then about 5-6 years ago, he says to me, hey, I want to start actually selling properties instead of just renting them out. Why don't you get your real estate license and you'll sell the properties that we flip? And I went ahead and got my real estate license. Hopefully this isn't too much of a curveball for REDX, but he ended up going to jail for something unrelated to real estate. And I was on my own. So my reputation wasn't that great in the neighborhood. So I had to prospect to get new clients. You know, I didn't really have a sphere that really wanted to give me their business at that point in time. And I ended up just, I guess, becoming one of the most successful realtors in my state and in my region. And now everybody reaches out to me.
Wow.
Right now, I'm currently ranked Real Trends number 18 in the entire state of Maryland for units closed. I'm number 1 in the entire Mid-Atlantic region out of all Coldwell Banker offices for number of units closed year to date. So yeah, just a prospecting machine, I guess.
That's awesome. And I think that's a really interesting story in the beginning, that you didn't have the best reputation because of who you came in with, which I think is what is great about prospecting is even if you are in a brand new area where nobody knows you, so you don't even have a reputation, right? I think prospecting opens up possibilities that wouldn't be there otherwise. So I think that's a really interesting way that you got started. Did you start with a specific lead type, or did you start with expireds, or what got you into prospecting?
Yeah, absolutely. So another guy I knew, he already had like 7 years head start on me as an agent. And I was like, man, I'm going to get ahead. I didn't even know people were calling expireds. I'm like, I'm going to get ahead and send letters to these people. No one even knows about this lead source. Like I was so green. And he was like, man, we're calling them people every day. And he showed me how to call them. And I was like, this is what I really need to do to succeed in real estate and actually set appointments, because I was like basically being reactive up until that point, just waiting for people to call my phone. And when I realized that I could, quickly set appointments with these people by reaching out to them first, it became a daily habit to make sure that I got on the phones every morning and started calling people.
Yeah, I think that's the perception when people get into real estate, that they want to be reactive. They want the business to come to them. But especially if you're struggling or if you're new to the business, like, that's not always going to happen. Like, business isn't just going to come to you. You got to build it. And hopefully in the future, right, it will come to you because of what you built. But I love that. I love that you were proactive about it and went out and found it. What kind of success did you have in the beginning? Was it hard in the beginning? Were you afraid to pick up the phone? Like, did you have to refine your script? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so one thing I didn't have that a lot of people do have, and I mentor a lot of agents here, so I see them going through it, is I really didn't have much call reluctance. I really don't care what anyone thinks about me. I'm going to do what I got to do every day. So that didn't bother me much, to be honest. I don't have a lot of advice there other than just remember these folks are strangers. They didn't know you 5 seconds before you called. So who cares what they think about you after you called?
Right.
As far as in the beginning, my skills weren't there, weren't up to par. And there's a lot of people I talked to in the beginning, honestly, that I'm selling homes for now. So like I built up my skill. I said, hey, I talked to you 5 years ago. I saw you listed with 3 more agents. You didn't sell. I got a couple of them on the board that I talked to when I first started, and I just sold their home. But, if you call enough people, even when your skills aren't that, that refined, you still will get business. Like that's not going to stop. You can outwork you might not sound like me right now as good as I am on the phone, but one thing you can do is you can call for longer than me, and you can beat me that way. And if you don't have appointments, you should be on the phone all day, because the thing that pays us the most is being in the presence of prospects, no matter how we need to do that.
I love that, because I think that is something that gets people to not pick up the phone and prospect, because they're afraid they're going to say something wrong. They're afraid that they're not the best out there, the best prospector or whatever. And then that stops them from prospecting. When I totally agree with you that your skill set will come, like you'll get better, and as you refine and as you continue to prospect, but it won't get better if you don't pick up the phone. And I totally agree with you in you might have to make it up in just time spent on the phone. But I like that a lot. So how about so I know you used Vulcan 7 first. And so I kind of want to ask you why you switched to REDX. Like what drew you in? Or because the way that we connected, I knew that you had purchased Vulcan 7 at first. So just interested in what differences you see, and then why did you make a switch?
Okay, yeah. So I'll give you some context as to what I was doing with Vulcan 7 and then how I ended up making that switch. So with Vulcan 7, you have, Vulcan 7 has good data. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say they don't have good data. But the plus data that REDX has, I found to be very similar, right? So now we're talking about having similar data. One thing about Vulcan 7 is they have a single line dollar, where we have a triple line dollar here on the Wave dollar system, right? So I was hooking up Vulcan to Mojo so I could triple line dial these people, because the law of averages will come into play later. So the more people we can call at one time, we will beat our competitor, even if they are a little bit better. It doesn't matter. If I'm hitting way more people because I'm saving time, I'm going to end up with more appointments. So the problem, though, with Mojo is their numbers get spammed very frequently. Okay, so you have to constantly buy a new number, rotate that number every 20 minutes. You have to do all these things to make sure the number isn't getting spammed. Okay. It was New Year's this year, just turned 2024. It's the Super Bowl of calling expireds, and I uploaded the list in the Vulcan 7, and only 60 expired showed up. But I just saw in the MLS that I had over 600. So I'm like, where are all my leads? So I looked and I cross-referenced the leads and found out that the MLS was time stamping the leads incorrectly. They were putting like the withdrawal stamp underneath of like where the last timestamp should be. So Vulcan 7, the way they upload their CSV file, wasn't catching that, and they weren't able to give me all the leads. So they were like, you're the first person to point this out to us. We're going to have to work on it. I'm like, I can't miss this opportunity. So I went and bought REDX. I said, even if it's for one day, I'm paying $300 because that's not nothing compared to what I can make today.
Oh, yeah.
So I bought REDX, and as I'm using the Wave system, I'm like, man, this is very clean. I like the interface a lot better. It just was, and then the smart number never got spammed on me one time that day. Not once. It still has never gotten spammed on me. I check it all the time. That number has never been spammed. It always stays healthy. So that's a big thing for me too, for pickup rates. So the $999, I'm not getting spammed, so I'm not missing those people. There's barely, if any at all, dead space because I'm listening to call recordings if 2 people pick up. Where with Mojo, you had like 3 seconds of dead space where some people will click when they hear that dead space. So with the law of averages coming into play, it just made more sense for me to make the switch completely.
That's really interesting and really helpful to know because that's something we came out with pretty recently around that time were our smart numbers where we actually do all of the work behind the scenes to make sure that it doesn't come up as spam. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not picking up the phone if it says spam likely. I am just like 100% not answering and your connection rates go down. And as a prospector, I mean, you know that your connection rates, that is like do or die in real estate. And making sure that you get the most connections gives you the most results and the most success ultimately. So thanks for sharing that with me. That is really interesting that is why you made the switch. And it makes sense because you want to talk to the most amount of people, especially in January when it's, like you said, the Super Bowl of expired listings. So that's awesome. I'm curious about kind of your routine, whether when you were first prospecting versus now, if that has evolved, like, were you prospecting first thing in the morning? Like what did your routine look like then and now?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was still building bicycles for a living, literally. So I was prospecting not really in the morning. I'd get off work because I got on a truck at that job at like 4 a.m. I would get off of that job like 12 p.m., 2 p.m. and I'd call whenever I possibly could. Days off, whatever that looked like. I didn't actually go complete full time until 3 years ago. Now, it's I'm usually on the phone by like 7:45 in the morning, whether it's at home or here. Typically, it's at home these days, and I'll come in the office for my afternoon appointments and my admin stuff. But I'll start at 7:45. I'll call the expired, the canceled, all that stuff, and I'll rerun them 3 times. The ones I didn't get a hold of, didn't tell me they're not interested or interested. After that, I'll move on. I was moving on for sale by owners a lot, and I can convert for sale by owners. The problem with for sale by owners for me, this is me personally, is there's an extra layer, an extra step in the funnel for them. And at this point, I've found so much value in switching right over to the absentees and the pre-foreclosures. I mean, I'm killing the pre-foreclosures right now. And that's blue waters to me. Like in my script, I've developed my own script. I was using REDX script for a while, and that's great. Actually, I think that's one of the best scripts out there. Believe it or not, as basic as it is, that's one of the best pre-foreclosure scripts. But I actually sourced my own, and I did that by getting proximity to a lot of wholesalers and investors in the area, because believe it or not, they're our biggest competitor when it comes to calling pre-foreclosure and probate. It's not other agents. So I was listening and learning what they were saying, and I used it and just switched it into more of a listing type scenario instead of I'm gonna buy your house type scenario, which I'm fine with buying their house too if the price is right. So that's kind of how I developed the script. The script I get barely, if any, objections at all, ever on it. If I get something, it's a condition typically, the way my script is actually written. So I'll go right from the expireds and the for rent by owner absentees into the pre-foreclosures, my special niche. And usually I end my calls right around 11:30. I'll do my follow-ups, and then I'll eat some lunch and then get ready to do some admin work, appointments in the afternoon. If I don't have appointments, I got to prospect again to try to find something.
Nice. Awesome. I want to hear that script before we get into that. With the different lead types that you want to call expireds first, right? Because they're going to get the most calls from other agents, I'm assuming. And then you talk absentees and then pre-foreclosures. So did you just find like, do you know your numbers at all for these different lead types? Like, do you know how many calls it takes to get a contact to appointment, stuff like that?
Yeah. So for expireds, I'm typically hitting around anywhere from it's been changing a lot lately.
Yeah.
It'll be anywhere. At first I was on a different dialing system. So it's like 6 to 9 contacts an hour on the expireds. And it usually takes me about 14 point. I have it logged. It's like 14.1 contacts to an appointment. Or 14.2 maybe.
Nice.
Something like that.
Cool. Okay, so I want to hear your different scripts for all 3 lead types. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm cool. I knew that was coming.
We got to hear it.
Hopefully we're not.
So,
Hopefully we don't freeze.
oh yeah, I know. Well, let's hear your expired script. I want to hear that one first, and then we'll go into the others.
Yeah, that one's extremely basic. Ring ring.
Hello,
Hey, is this Haley?
this is she.
Haley, I'm so glad I called you. This is Tim over at the local Coldwell Banker office. And Haley, I'll keep this extremely brief because I'm sure your expectation wasn't to get bombarded with phone calls this morning, Haley. I'm sure, as you know and are well aware of the listing on your home expired, we're just calling to see when you plan on hiring a new agent that can help you execute the original plans you have with the property.
I wasn't looking into it. We were thinking about just relisting with the same agent.
Relisting with the same agent. Haley, may I ask you this before I let you go? I know your neighborhood. I know the conditions of the neighborhood, your style of home, very familiar with it. I'm curious what even has you possibly considering selling this home in the first place.
Well, we're trying to move down to Texas. That's where I'm from originally. So,
Got it. Is that still important to you and your family at this point?
it is, yeah.
Okay. Haley, I know that you said you're going to release with the same agent. May I ask you, how did you happen to pick this agent in the first place?
It's my husband's brother.
Cousin's brother. Okay, so that makes total sense. I'm not going to discredit this agent at all. I just see some things in the listing that I would have done a little bit differently. Let me ask you, Haley, is going with this agent plan A or plan B this time?
They gave us some reasons why it didn't sell. And they gave us a lot of confidence that they could sell it if we relisted. And so we weren't really planning on going down different avenues. So I would say plan A was the plan.
Plan A. And may I ask why you think plan A didn't work so great for you the first time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, our agent told us that the market is kind of hard right now with in our price range, and I think that's really the main reason. And we're just kind of waiting for the right time in the market, and our house just wasn't. Maybe he did say that it was a little overpriced at first as well, so maybe didn't get any offers because of that as well.
Wow. Okay. So this agent actually told you that your price point is hard to sell in this market. Haley, what's interesting? I've found that a lot of agents that are having a tough time selling homes in our market, your and I market, they're blaming it on the market right now instead of on themselves. Now that leads me to my next question. Do you and the husband have a lot of equity tied up in this property?
Yeah, we do.
Got it. And are you the type of lady that likes to leave money on the table, or you're the type of lady that likes to take every penny with you?
Definitely don't like to leave money on the table.
I wouldn't think so. So obviously, Haley, you and the husband need a second opinion. Mine will only take about 15, 20 minutes. I can do 4 o'clock today or 5 o'clock today. Work better for the 3 of us.
Let's do 4 o'clock.
Perfect. Here's what I'm going to do, Haley, and you tell me if you're opposed to this or not. You're not too far from my office, so I'm going to actually have my assistant, Adele, hand deliver a pre-listing packet to you. The reason for this is it's going to have some simple information about me, my track record, so you guys can do some due diligence on your end, digest that before I get there. And that way, when I get there, we're only talking about yours and your husband's clear goal and objectives. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Perfect. I'm going to call you about an hour before I arrive just to confirm the appointment, ask you some additional questions in preparation for the appointment. I'll see you guys at 4 o'clock.
All righty. Okay. I like it. Honestly, it was, and you can help break it down a little bit, but I think it was pretty simple, straightforward. You answered the struggles of the homeowner, and I thought you handled that really well. Maybe I was a little too easy on you. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the way objections should be structured is we need to agree and affirm, right, what they're saying, because we want to make sure we acknowledge the customer.
Right.
And then after we do that, the way you want to handle an objection typically is you want to ask one or two questions, at least two typically, that you know the answer to. I knew the clear answer to your questions. So once you say yes, then instead of saying, would it make sense? Would it do this and that? I say, obviously, right? Like you'd be crazy for us not to get together, Haley. So that's kind of how I do it.
Love it. Awesome. Okay, let's move to absentees.
Absentees. All right. That one's easy. Come on.
Okay.
Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, is this Haley?
This is she.
Haley, this is Tim Dominick over here at the local Coldwell Banker office. I'm not catching you at the absolute worst time right now, am I?
No, I got a few minutes. What's up?
I'll keep it extremely brief, Haley. I'm sure you weren't expecting a call out of the blue. I just passed your property over on 123 Main Street, and I knew this property is for rent. Did you already fill the vacancy on this property?
We have not yet.
You have not yet. Hey, Haley, may I ask you this? This is going to be kind of a, out of the box question. Would you possibly consider selling this property if the offer made sense at this time to you?
We were thinking about maybe going down that avenue just because it hasn't, we haven't found any renters for it. But I'm not sure if it makes sense with the numbers, just currently what we owe on the property and things like that. So.
Yeah, the numbers definitely have to make sense. Have you ever rented this property before, or is this like an accidental rental that you're renting out, trying for your first time?
No, we have a couple other rentals, so we've rented out before. This specific house, we've had a little bit of struggle keeping renters in it, so that's currently our situation.
Okay, so we know you're already subject to capital gains tax here in Maryland, which is 21%. So here's what I do know, Haley. The most you could probably sell this property for in the next 5 years was yesterday. Why don't we do this? I'm going to crunch the numbers for you on my end. I'm going to shoot it over to your email. You're a seasoned investor. I'm not trying to talk you into selling your property. But if the numbers make sense, Haley, could I follow up with you maybe a little later on today? And maybe we could have a further discussion about possibly meeting at the property and seeing if it makes sense for us to just get this property sold for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to crunch some numbers for me and come up with something, I think that would just be interesting to look at and see where we're at.
Haley, just by you saying that demonstrates that we really should get together. And I know I said I was going to send that over to you, and that's fine. I am. But once we hang up this phone call, what I noticed is, historically speaking, is our chance of getting together drops about 85%, Haley. Why don't we do this? While we both got our phones in front of us and our calendars out, why don't we just go ahead and schedule a tentative appointment? I'll schedule it in with a pencil that has a very big eraser on it. I'll send you over the information. If it doesn't make sense to meet, I'll just erase the appointment and we'll stay in touch. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right, cool. Under normal conditions and circumstances, when are typically the best days to meet up, Haley?
I can do Wednesday afternoons.
Wednesday afternoon, 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock better for you?
Let's do 5.
Perfect. I'm going to shoot you over that email at haley123@gmail.com, and then I'll be an hour before 5 o'clock on Wednesday just to confirm.
Great. Awesome. Okay, break that down for me. Tell me why you went with what you specifically say in your script.
Yeah, so that's again another one that I sourced personally, and I sourced that as someone that's been a landlord myself. Because here's the thing: if you've never rented the property, if you would have said, "Hey Tim, this is our first time, our first hand that's trying to get this property rented," I would have easily. One sec. Sorry, I lost you for a second. I would have said, "Hey Haley, before you decide to deposit that first rental check, let's get together so you're not subject to 21% capital gains tax, because that's really going to eat up a lot of your profits." When you told me you're a seasoned investor, I know the last thing you want is for me to push you directly into an appointment to sell a property when you clearly know what you're doing renting properties. Mm-hmm. So I always say to them, I'm going to add some value, send you over an evaluation. Let's put you on the calendar. If it doesn't make sense, we'll just cancel. So it's just a basic script just to kind of add some value before I take by asking you for time, which is your most valuable asset.
Nice. Do you see that you run into more seasoned investors or brand new people trying to rent out properties?
If it's the for rent by owner list, like instead of like just an absentee basic vague list, it is going to be more seasoned investors here in Baltimore, just because Baltimore is like a heavily saturated investors market, kind of like Cleveland is starting to become, right? Or already has become. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So then let's get into pre-foreclosures, your bread and butter, right?
Yeah. So listen, I'm going to tell you, this one is not going to sound salesy. It's going to sound like I work for a bank or something. Like I made this one where I sound like a straight up service call because I found that's the best way to touch on these people that are clearing the stress. And I want to say something else. I was using the circle prospecting, the cold call. Would you sell your home acting like you don't know they're in foreclosure stuff? I was doing that. And there may be people thinking they're having success with that. Hey, every 50, I get an appointment. I guarantee you, if you're more direct and specific to their situation and you can come from a place of empathy, you will get better results, 100%. So,
all right.
Today's podcast is brought to you by REDX Pre-Foreclosure Leads, one of the best lead types to add to your prospecting toolbox. Here's why. Pre-foreclosure leads are homeowners who have defaulted on mortgage payments, but the property has not yet been foreclosed on and sold at auction. Unlike the spike in pre-foreclosures during the 2008 recession, today's pre-foreclosures typically have equity in their home, often don't know their options, and need a trusted advisor to navigate their stressful situation. More than any other selling situation, working homes in pre-foreclosure gives you the chance to advocate for and guide distressed homeowners through a confusing and difficult transition. Prospecting pre-foreclosures is less competitive than expireds or for sale by owners, but that doesn't mean they're any less lucrative. REDX does the hard work of searching county court and tax records, finding hard-to-get contact information, and putting it all in one place while making it clear which leads are on the DNC list. If you're interested in prospecting pre-foreclosure leads, sign up today at redx.com/podcast and save $150 on your setup fee.
all right. This script is a little more comprehensive. All right. So ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, is this Haley?
This is she.
Might have lost you. I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay? Is this Haley?
I can hear you. Can you? There's a little bit of a delay. Do you hear me?
Having a connection issue.
Let me know when I'm back.
Let me know when you can hear me okay. Sorry. Can you hear me?
No, you're good. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I couldn't hear you, so I'll run it again. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries.
All
I can
right.
cut
Ring,
that out
ring.
in production. Hello.
Perfect. Hey, is this Haley?
This is she.
Hey, Haley, sorry to bother you like this. This is Tim Dominick. I'm a licensed agent with Coldwell Banker, ma'am. And before I get into the basis of my call, I would please ask if you'd at least just provide me the opportunity to just explain to you why I'm calling, and then maybe you can decide from there if we should continue or not. Is that fair enough?
Okay.
Okay, great, Haley. Again, I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. I do quite a bit of work with the banks and helping folks, more importantly, helping folks that are facing challenges with the banks. And my head researcher pointed out to me very early this morning that your property at 123 Main Street is now in the foreclosure process. And Haley, I'm just calling to simply find out if I can help you save the property or even potentially help you sell the property if that makes more financial sense at this point for you.
Okay. How would you do that?
Got it. Well, I'll go over the 5 main options that are at your disposal right now if you want to spend another 30 seconds to a minute with me on this call. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, great. So, Haley, I have to ask you, do you currently have any agents representing you, and have you attempted to sell the home yet?
No, we have not.
Totally understand. I know this can be difficult for most folks. And Haley, any information that you share with me, I want you to know that helps me to be more well-equipped to provide you with helpful or useful information in some way, okay? So obviously the first option, especially if you want to keep the home, this will be the best option. And I can tell you exactly how to do it. It's very simple, so it doesn't take me long to explain this. A reinstatement, if you want to keep the home, is always your best option, just to bring the loan current, pay off the arrears, and that way your payment stays the same and the life of the loan stays the same. Do you have anybody that you could potentially borrow? Looks like the trustee has about $18,000 on here. Do you have anyone that you could borrow that from in the family, a friend maybe?
Unfortunately, I don't think somebody could give us or loan us that amount of money right now.
Totally understand. It is a tremendous amount of money, Haley, and I can definitely understand if this is causing some stress at this point in time for you and the family. The second thing you can do, though, is, Haley, is a loan modification. Have you guys already attempted to do a loan modification? And I'll explain what this is in case you don't know. Basically, they wrap the arrears back into the loan. Now, the only problem with this, Haley, is if you're already having trouble paying the current payment, they are going to raise the payment a little bit and usually extends the life of the loan. Is this something that you would consider at this point in time?
I don't think we can afford a higher payment right now.
Makes sense. And typically, depending on your credit score and some other variables, might depend on if you're even qualified for that. So, that's probably your second best option. You want to keep the home. Now, the third best option, in my opinion, is possibly getting yourself into a financial situation that's more feasible. We could definitely help you with listing the home. We're well versed in the pre-foreclosure process, and we can help you, even supply the bank with the paperwork that's needed so that they slow down the process, because time is of the essence right now. And the cool thing about us getting the property listed, Haley, is we will also procure cash offers. So in the event that the time starts to run short on us, we can always fall back on one of those cash offers if you find one of them to be acceptable and very reasonable to you. Okay. Does that sound like something that you might even consider at this point in time?
We're really hoping to keep the home. But at this rate, it's looking a little bit difficult. And so I've thought about going down this avenue. We've talked about it a little bit. I just think it's a little hard to accept right now that we'll have to lose the house.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I was going to tell you, the next option you have is, in terms of keeping the house, if you can't do a loan mod or a reinstatement, is Chapter 13. Yeah, so Haley, like I was saying, Chapter 13 is extremely effective, but it's like putting a Band-Aid on an affected wound. It only solves the short-term problem, and it will stick with you for the better part of a decade. So it's my least favorite if someone wants to keep the home. The other option is, obviously, it's something we can still wrap up in the third option, but for folks that really don't want to have showings and things like that, we can just procure a bunch of cash offers, and you can choose the best one out of that. The other thing we can do with option 3 is we can also procure a buyer that may be, well-versed with creative financing. We have sold properties, for homeowners in your particular situation, Haley, that have actually been able to stay in the home after it's purchased and they rent from the new landlord. So we can discuss all these options when we actually get together, Haley. Do you think that these are some options that you and the family might want to discuss?
Yeah, I think I'd want to talk to my husband about it, because obviously this is a sensitive situation and we're trying to figure it out. But yeah.
Of course, I totally understand, Haley, that it's a sensitive situation and it's a sore subject for sure. I can't imagine being in your shoes right now. Under normal conditions and circumstances, Haley, when do you think the best days and times are for your husband?
He gets home around 5 o'clock after work. So.
Okay. Well, look, I knew today may be a little early. You need to talk to your husband. Maybe tomorrow we set a time for 6 p.m. right now while we're on the phone, just so I can make sure I get you in the calendar. Because if we hang up this phone, Haley, and we don't set an appointment, the chances of us ever meeting is 85%. And I think you deserve more than a 15% chance to get your home sold, if that's what's going to actually help you guys in this situation. Why don't we go ahead and set an appointment for tomorrow at 5:30? You speak to the husband today. I'll call you back tomorrow to confirm. If he doesn't want to do it, I totally understand.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, perfect.
All right. With that one, I can obviously tell your tonality is different. You're a lot more sensitive to what the homeowner is going through. And it's a lot more of a conversation. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so like I said, so I was calling at first with the same sales approach I was doing in expireds, where someone someone selling their house when they're in expired, they could be in this situation too. But in most cases, it could be a life event. They're looking to upgrade, downgrade. When this happens to somebody, this is a very motivated seller if they're going to sell their home. They have to, right? They're in pain right now. And we got to solve that pain. It's completely different. This isn't a sales approach. And even if we're talking to an expired or a cancel, we really shouldn't be focused on the sale of someone's home. We really should be focused on getting them their result. We need to see past it. Like when a boxer's told to punch somebody, they always say punch through their head, not on their head. And that's because that's powerful. We need to be told, we need to learn that we are in the sales business, right? We're in direct sales, really more than we are in real estate by far. But we really need to be empathetic towards these people's situations, and we really need to be looking to help them with their clear goal and objectives and not our own. And it goes further than the sale of a home. No one cares or wants to think about selling their home. They want to think about the goal or the result to selling that home. Hey, I need to get to Virginia. Hey, I'm in foreclosure. Hey, my relative just passed away. Hey, I'm trying to get closer to my daughter. Because I found when I kind of find that pain and I push on it and I talk more about that, I'm able to actually get the appointment above all other people that are competing for that appointment.
I like that. This is awesome. We've kind of gone into all three of these scripts that you do, and I think it's really interesting how different they are because it's tailored to the lead and what they need. And so I love that. We're nearing the end here of the podcast, but I just thank you for sharing your scripts and for going through that with us. I think it's really important. And also I think the biggest thing, especially we're talking about like being afraid of the phone and stuff like that earlier, that these scripts are pretty, like, it's not rocket science. It's not crazy. It's like, you just have to get on the phone and talk to people. And you can use Tim's scripts. You can use REDX scripts. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day what you do. You just have to get on the phone. Right. So Tim, do you have any last advice or comments you want to make on prospectors and how they can be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. This is prospecting and real estate in general levels the playing field. When I know I'm up against somebody that has like 4 or 5 degrees, I know they went to some extended schooling after high school or something, I'm excited to beat them because I know they're going to overthink it. The more you think, the worse you are, right? You need to just take action and you need to be extremely confident, right? The past and the background that I come from to be able to jump into this and be extremely successful says that anyone can do it. You just got to have the confidence to do it. And of course, work ethic as well. So my advice to the people making calls that are feeling call reluctance, that boils down to confidence. Just remember, the more you think, the worse it's going to be. You just got to take action and not care about what anyone else thinks, because if you don't, then you're never going to win. And even if you do win, you're not going to win as much as you should. You should, without a doubt, you should be able to get right on that phone, hit the button and start dialing. It should not affect you whatsoever what the other person on the other line thinks about you.
I love that advice. Don't think about it. Just get going and you'll be successful. I love it. Thank you, Tim, so much for coming on and sharing your expertise with us. It is very clear that you're an avid prospector, so we really appreciate the time that you spent with us today. And for everybody that's watching, thanks for tuning in. I hope that you actually take the advice that Tim has given and even try out his scripts on the phone. And if you are interested in prospecting expireds or for rent by owners, absentee owners, or pre-foreclosures, that I hope this gives you the push you need to try it out and be successful with it. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We will be here same time, same place next week, and we'll see everybody then. Bye-bye.